If you want to understand where the world is heading right now, I suggest you do not start with Europe or the Middle East or even Asia. Start with the United States of America. And let me tell you why. Two speeches, 1 month, and suddenly there's a massive story hidden in our plain sight. Because within just a few days, they reveal something bigger, what America is becoming inside and out, and what America really wants at home and abroad. Let's be honest, sometimes it feels like history of the world is just the history of the United States. The way America does, so do the markets, allies, and enemies. And yet, nobody fully understands America. Not its allies, not its critics, and honestly, sometimes not even Americans themselves. Even in the best of times, the US is complicated. In the worst of times, it looks downright contradictory. Decisions appear out of nowhere, policies appear mysterious, and transparency feels like an out of reach upgrade for an average American. The public, both at home and abroad, is left asking the same question. What exactly is America trying to do? Simple questions rarely get simple answers. Disheartening, isn't it? But my friends, February 2026, mark my words, February 2026 was different. It was one of those rare crystal ball moments, the kind that we haven't seen since 1941-42, right after the Pearl Harbor attack on the US, that suddenly revealed to the world where America stood. So back to February 2026, two moments back to back, one abroad, one at home, worth paying attention to. First stop, the Munich Security Conference. You know the story, the emperor's new clothes, where one pretends the emperor is wearing magnificent robes until a child finally blurts out, "The emperor is naked." You've heard that story, right? That was Munich. And the metaphorical kid was Secretary of State Marco Rubio. In front of European leaders, Rubio essentially said what many whispered privately but rarely say aloud. Europe is wealthy, Europe is comfortable, but it is increasingly unable to defend itself, not just militarily, but culturally as well as politically. The message wasn't subtle at all. It wasn't diplomatic poetry either. It was closer to what I would call as public intervention. Europe, Rubio argued, was, or rather is squandering its inheritance, struggling to secure its borders, and drifting away from the Christian civilizational identity that defines the West. Watch this clip.
We are part of one civilization, Western civilization. We are bound to one another by the deepest bonds that nations could share, forged by centuries of shared history, Christian faith, culture, heritage, language, ancestry, and the sacrifices our forefathers made together for the common civilization to which we have fallen heir. And this is why we do not want our allies to be weak, because that makes us weaker. We want allies who can defend themselves so that no adversary will ever be tempted to test our collective strength. This is why we do not want our allies to be shackled by guilt and shame. We want allies who are proud of their culture and of their heritage, who understand that we are heirs to the same great and noble civilization, and who together with us are willing and able to defend it. And this is why we do not want allies to rationalize the broken status quo rather than reckon with what is necessary to fix it. For we in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline.
You don't have to agree with the argument, but you cannot miss the tone. This wasn't a consultation. This was admonition. Was it leadership? Was it bullying? Was it tough love? Or strategic theater? Pick your word. But one thing became clear to me. America was reminding everyone, politely or not, that it still considers itself the adult in the room. Superpower status still active, so do not cancel that subscription yet. In Munich, what mattered was what was said. Now let's come back home to the US, to our second stop, the State of the Union address by President Trump. This week in Washington, D.C., what mattered was what was seen. So Munich was what was said, Washington, D.C. was what was seen. Because while America was projecting confidence abroad, the picture inside looked messier. Things at home looked like a dinner get-together with relatives who basically stopped talking to each other, speaking to each other sometime in the last century. President Trump delivered what may have been, in my opinion, the longest State of the Union address ever, the densest State of the Union address ever. Lots of medals, lots of applause. As usual, applause on repeat. Medals were awarded, jokes were made, and at one point it almost felt like he awarded himself one before laughing it off. So lots of theatrics, nothing shocking. Nobody seemed entirely surprised. Business as usual until immigration came up. And suddenly the room changed. You've heard Lincoln's phrase, a house divided? Yeah, that wasn't a metaphor anymore. That was live television. All right, so watch this clip. It's only a couple of minutes long, but don't miss what is happening. The president calls for action on illegal immigration, and one entire side of the chamber refuses to engage. Total boycott. Then listen at the end. The USA chants come from only one side. That right there tells you how divided Washington, D.C. has become on matters so foundational to its existence. I've never seen a State of the Union look like this. And, well, why don't you watch and make up your own mind?
If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens, in many cases drug lords, murderers all over our country. They're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
The president framed illegal immigration as a priority, as a national security issue. Now, you would assume logically that national security would be one of those rare bipartisan moments, something both parties could at least partially agree on, right? Wrong. Zero crossover energy. And that's the real story. It's a moment worth pausing on. Because when political polarization reaches a point where even national security concerns trigger total partisan resistance, something deeper is happening. Immigration has stopped being a policy debate now. It has become an identity, a sacred cow. So, my friends, here's where America stands today. Outside, the superpower looks ready to reshape the global order, confident, assertive, and even a little moralizing. Inside, however, the Republic is intensely polarized. Not tired, not disengaged. If anything, both sides are fully engaged, fully energized, arguing not just about policies, but about what America itself is supposed to be. And that may be the deeper paradox. A nation powerful enough to shape the world inevitably creates disruption beyond its borders, instability, conflict, and migration. And sooner or later, those consequences arrive back at its own doorsteps. However, with no consensus on what the immigration policies would be or will be. That is America today. It's powerful abroad, but restless and divided at home. Until next time.